Okay, we're going to watch the whole video and then we're going to fill in some of it. We'll get partway through it today. We won't, I don't think, get through all of it. It's pretty long, but we'll watch the whole video to start with. What are traits? Sorry? How you look. Basically any sort of characteristic. Yeah. Okay. Any sort of characteristic. Okay, so what I want you to do is take a look here, and we can see on the right-hand side, we go red, yellow, blue, green, red, blue, green. And over on the right side, we go red, yellow, blue, green, red, yellow. Oh, that is green. I don't know what they're saying. Where's the mutation? I don't know. It's okay. We'll look more at mutations later. That's unfortunate. Okay, so we know that DNA is a spiraling chain-like molecule made of nucleotides. DNA nucleotides come in 4 types, A, C, T, and G. We knew that. A gene is a stretch of DNA that codes for something, usually a protein. And a mutation is when something happens to the DNA that makes it change. Okay? And that change could be caused by many things. It could be caused by toxins. Okay? So if there's a toxic substance, it can cause the DNA to get a little nick in it, like a little cut. And when the cell's enzymes are trying to fix it, they sometimes make a mistake when they're fixing it. Same thing with UV rays. UV rays are a form of radiation. They come along, zap, and they'll hit your skin, and they'll hit the DNA in your skin cells. And that can cause, like I said, a little tiny break in the DNA. And when the enzymes go to fix it, often a little mistake is made. Yes? That's how cancer works. Okay? So some mutations are harmful. For example, those ones that cause cancer. Okay? Some mutations are actually beneficial. And in fact, all the different diversity that you see in the different organisms usually was caused by some mutation that actually happens to be positive. It happened to be helpful, right? So instead of having a short beak, maybe you need a long beak to be able to get into, like a hummingbird needs to be able to get deep into the flower and get the nectar, right? So those can be beneficial mutations. Okay, and that long thread-like structure is called chromatin. Yes. Do you remember what we said about DNA normally in the cell? Are you able to see it? Is chromatin visible? No, it's so thin that it's invisible, even under a microscope. But right before a cell starts to divide, and that's how you get new cells. And anytime you need to grow, you don't grow by your cells just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You grow by one cell turning into two cells turning into four cells, and four turning into eight, and so on until we have a whole human being. But right before the cell divides, the chromosomes coil up really tightly, just like that ball of yarn. Can you imagine if I took a ball of yarn and I unraveled it and I just threw it on the floor? It would look like a big scrambled mess, yeah? So organizing it in order to separate into two separate cells would be really hard. But if we coil it up, imagine going to the yarn store and you wanted to buy, 3 different things of yarn. It would be really easy if everything's all packaged up neatly. But can you imagine if they just threw all the yarn unraveled on the floor? And then you had to go and find the yarn that you wanted? That'd be crazy, yes? So this is what chromosomes do before the cell divides to allow them to be organized easily. Okay, so do you see the pink ones? We're being gender stereotypical here. Okay, and the pink ones are coming from mom. No reason the pink ones couldn't have come from dad, but that's all right. And then we have the other one. Where does the other half of the pair come from? Okay, so you got one chromosome number 1 from mom, and you got one chromosome number 1 from dad. And chromosome number 1 is going to contain all the same genes for the same traits. Okay? So let's say that hair color was only one gene. It's actually way more complicated. But if hair color is on chromosome number 1, it will also be on chromosome number 1 for dad's chromosome. So chromosome number 1 might have hair color. It might also have earlobe shape. Do you guys know about earlobes and genetics? That's okay. We'll go through that when we're taking notes. Okay? We'll go into that in a little more depth. So We are all mutants. Every single one of us are mutants because we all contain between 50 and 200 mutations that are special just for us, completely different from everybody else. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's the overall picture of what a chromosome is. And we're going to go through some of this today. So back to page 76, if you've gone anywhere else. What does DNA stand for?
Yeah.
Yes. And remember, you don't have to know that this is an enriched sort of a thing, but it stands for deoxyribo, and then nucleic acid. A nucleic acid is a type of biomolecule, yes. Okay, so that's one of the things that's going to be on Monday's quiz. What are the two things that are nucleic acids? RNA and DNA. Yeah, for sure. And again, that's going to be Monday's quiz. What do we call one of these little things? That is a nucleotide, yes. And a nucleotide is the monomer for a nucleic acid. DNA or RNA. Okay, and again, this could be on the quiz on Monday. Oh, and if yours is too dark to write on, you can just write on the sides. I'm sorry, I should lighten that up a little bit so it's easier to annotate. Okay, so if the red one is an A, I want you to look at the pictures. What would the blue one have to be? What would this one have to be? That would have to be a T because it's like the pointy one, yes? So the pointy one goes with the pointy one, and the circular one goes with the circular one. So C goes with G. All right. What do we call a segment of the DNA? That is a gene. Excellent. A gene is a long stretch of DNA with specific sequence of A's, C's, C's, and G's coding for something. What is that something that a gene codes for? A gene codes for a protein, yes. Excellent. And we did that quiz yesterday, and I haven't quite finished marking it yet. I had a bunch of stuff to do for my Chem 11s. So while you guys are working on your stuff today, if I get a chance, I'll finish marking it in class. Okay, if not, I'll get it back to you on Monday for sure. Okay. What does a gene code for? Usually so now we're on page 77. Usually a protein or a group of proteins. Although there are a few exceptions, you don't need to know this. But if you are interested, there is actually something called a ribozyme. Can anyone guess what a ribozyme is? Or at least part of what it is. It is an enzyme. Yeah, absolutely. But instead of being made out of protein, it is made out of, and again, can you take a guess as to what it's made out of? Ribosomes would be a good guess, but I want you to take a look at the structure. It's made of RNA. Okay? So there's actually another type of RNA, but we won't be talking about that. Okay? So you don't need to know this. All right. What are these things? Proteins. Proteins make up, what's that? Cells. Cells make up tissues. Tissues make up organs. And all together, the organs make up a living organism. Okie smoky. Individuals, so for example, these two birds, they have different what's, in this case, beak shape. What do we call those things like beak shape? Traits. They have different traits like bird shape. And one of the reasons that we're looking at these birds, have you guys heard of Darwin? You've heard of Darwin? Yeah. What's Darwin really famous for? The theory of evolution. And do you know where he went that sort of inspired his ideas about evolution? He went to starts with a G? The what? The Galapagos Islands. And it turns out that on every island, there are different birds and there are different plants. And every bird on every island is specialized to eat whatever plant is prevalent on that island. So if you have one that has some hard nuts that need breaking, it's going to have a shorter beak. If it needs to maybe dig into some wood to get at an ant, maybe it's got a sharper, pointier beak. Okay, so that was sort of what inspired him. He's like, oh my gosh, look at this. These guys are doing this. These guys are doing this. And they are isolated from one another. So you get genetic change within a group that is not interbreeding with the other one that's on another island. All right, here is a mutation. And you'll notice that over here we have yellow and green. But on the other DNA strand, we have blue and red. But otherwise, everything else is the same. It goes yellow, blue, green, red, yellow, blue, green, red, but we have something that's just a little bit different. And remember, a mutation, this is for not Monday's quiz, but this would be for Wednesday's quiz. A mutation is a change to the DNA code. So perhaps a mutation can cause changes in a particular protein shape. You can see maybe it started like this, and this is before mutation. And this is after the mutation. And if we change its shape, what do we change? We change its function. Well, we might also change its size, but definitely its function. Another thing that could change, we could have a change in when a particular protein is produced. So instead of making it at one time, we're making it at a different time. We could also have a before mutation and then an after mutation. We could have a change in how much of a particular protein is produced. Maybe you only want a little bit and you get a lot, or maybe by making a lot, it becomes something very advantageous. Okay, so that could go either way. Chromosome, Wednesday quiz. That one was, ooh, I missed that one. Let's go back. I missed one. Individuals have different traits, in this case, differences in beak shape, largely because of differences or mutations in their genetic code. Thank you for catching me on that one there, Brian. Okay, and now we can go on to page 79. So a chromosome is an entire chain of DNA along with a group of histone proteins. So if you unravel a chromosome, you'll see it's made of a what? Thread. Good, I was going to guess thread. It's made of a thread, sort of like a spool of yarn. And so if we have, here we have our chromosome. It's made out of the chromatin, which is like the thread. And then if we take it apart even further, we can unwind that thread. You know how like yarn is often made of many pieces, right? We can unwind it even further and we get the DNA along with the histones. Histones is just another word for histone proteins. So don't forget histones. Zoom in again, and you'll see that the fiber is a collection of protein orbs called histones, or you can call them histone proteins. And I would imagine that on Wednesday's quiz, there might be a diagram like this for you to label. So finally, when we zoom in, we get the chain of DNA. It is millions of letters long and often contains hundreds of genes along its length. So here we have this one. This is the chromosome in its, and I'm going to introduce a new word here, condensed. And what does condensed mean? To condense means to tightly coil up. However, chromosomes are only packaged up tightly like this when a cell is going to divide. It's possible I have different words in the answer key. It'll have essentially the same meaning, okay? So let's take a look at what happens. We are not specifically going to cover mitosis this year, but if you are interested, I actually have like a little extra package that I can give you on mitosis. So I'm just going to put that in brackets and like a little diamond. Mitosis. You should be able to logically put together these pictures in order, but you won't need to say what they're called. So, first thing that happens is that the chromosomes condense. So in other words, they coil up. They start out all thin and long and thin and noodly, and they coil up. And so you can see there in the cell, they are there looking like little X's almost, okay? The second thing they do is the chromosomes line up in the middle. Would it make sense for a chromosome to line up in the middle first and then condense? No, it has to be organized first and then they can line up, okay? Now I want you to take a look at diagram 2 and diagram 3 and tell me what has happened in between those two diagrams. Something has happened. They've lined up even more, but there's something even more important. The nuclear membrane has disappeared. This structure, and by this structure, I think they mean, or I mean, the chromosome, coiled up, provides stability. Now, do you see how each of these are made of a little half, an X and a little X, and a little X, and a little X? What happens in the next step? The two halves of the X's the two halves of the chromosomes pull apart to opposite ends of the cell. Okay, so those two halves of the chromosomes pull apart to opposite ends of the cell. And then we go over to our other page, and we're just about done with this, and I'll give you the rest of class to work on stuff. So we go over to our next page down at the bottom, okay? And what has happened here? We've ended up with two nuclear membranes form around the separated halves of the chromosomes. And do you see how that's almost ready to be a brand new cell? Two brand new cells? Okay. All right. And look what's happening now. The cell membrane pinches together in the middle. cell membrane pinches together. In the middle. And guess what we get? Bam! 2 new cells. And then, because they don't need to be wrapped up anymore, and you'll need to be able to access it to make RNA copies, right? It unravels. The DNA unravels into chromatin. And then it's ready to go do cell business. And then when it's ready to divide again, the chromosomes will condense. They'll move to the middle. The cell membrane will break, or the nuclear membrane will break down. The 2 halves of the chromosomes will pull apart, and you'll get a new nuclear membrane forming around it. And then the cell will pinch off, and then you'll end up with 2 new cells, and on and on and on. Okay, so we're going to leave it there for today. Today, we're going to go back to here. Okay, so you're going to do page 62. Page 62, 67 to 70. And while you are doing this, you can add on to, whenever you come across something that you think would be good to add on to your cheat sheet, add to RNA cheat sheet. And the RNA cheat sheet will be on 5.2D and 5.2E. And your quiz is on Monday. And I'm sorry I forgot to buy strawberries today. We were going to extract some DNA today, but I messed up, so my apologies. Mea culpa. Yes, I'll make sure we get some for next week. Hi.
Can I go to get my food?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to mark your quizzes. So maybe I can get them back to you today. It'd be really nice. Fantastic. Thank you very much.